Hey there, good morning guys. I am Jonathan. Welcome to my Compound Life. This is a channel where we build assets, we build habits, and of course we build freedom. That will be financial freedom, time freedom for you, me, and anyone else that watches my video. How are you guys? It's the 31st of January, around 8 a.m. in the morning in the UK, West Midlands. Good to see you all. This is yet another Bitcoin daily video. So yeah, let's get started. Let's start with price action for the day. Price action. Oh, let me bring up trading view. Okay, so Bitcoin now is trading between the range of around 83,000 to 84,000. In the past 24 hours, it went up about a small-ish 1.25%, starting from around 82,900, hitting a high near 84,400 and low around 81,000. So we are, however, still 33% away from the previous all-time high at around 126,000 back in October last year. So Bitcoin obviously had a rough drop to around 81,000 yesterday, but bounced back a little guys, right? But not in any form of recovery. So we are, for the time being, we are in a short-term downtrend channel. Likely this bearish trend will continue. I will explain to you why in the news section. I think largely due to the new appointed Fed. So personally, I don't anticipate Bitcoin to have any strong recovery this year, like essentially getting us back to 100,000 or 105,000 previously called out. Or not at all any chance of getting to about 126,000 and or above, right? So that's my speculation. Certainly not financial advice. Do your own research. So just a quick reminder of where we are right now. Okay, so always bring up this chart. Let me refresh it. So white line, this is the cycle where we are right now, okay? And this chart in specific, it measures from bottom to bottom the whole of the Bitcoin cycle, right? So white line is the current cycle, blue line is the last cycle, and then the orange line is the cycle from before, right? Before last cycle. Okay, so essentially, usually when Bitcoin top, and this usually is, so when Bitcoin top, it will take approximately 12 months. 12 months for us to get to the bottom, right? And when Bitcoin gets to the bottom, this time round, this cycle, we anticipate that to be sometime in October, November period. Okay. And after Bitcoin gets to the bottom, as you can see, like, the purple line was the last cycle, Bitcoin gets to the bottom, and then it gets picked up by the white line, which is the new cycle for Bitcoin. And it usually takes about maybe, so it takes about a full year of bear cycle to get there. And then afterwards, we will enjoy approximately 3 years worth of bull cycle. Okay, so to a lot of people out there, my viewers that are watching my video, right, we're not in the worst of situation, right? So imagine if bear market already started sometime in October last year, right? So after the great big capitulation on the 10th of October last year, where a lot of traders were wiped out from their leverage longs, right? So we are near 4 months onto the bear market, okay? And that's not at all bad, because we only got eight more months less for bear market, right? So somehow, many of us, right, including me, we just have to tighten our belts, right? We're not going to take profit. We're not going to panic sell, and just tighten our belt and wait until the bottom, right? So this is why I've seen a few people leaving comments on my on a lot of video, like they're jumping in to buy the dip, etc., 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 right? So if you are on dollar cost average on a daily basis, definitely these are dips opportunity, right? However, I do anticipate that this will continue to play out, right? Look at the last cycle, continue to drop. The cycle from before, continue to drop. And then the same for this cycle, I do anticipate the same too. It will continue to drop. And maybe, I'm just saying it's maybe, so not financial advice, do your own research. Maybe the best time to re-enter will be towards November this year. So I'm just thinking out loud, right? And of course, we are only about 802 days. 802 days? Yeah, 802 days until the next Bitcoin. Until the next Bitcoin. Yeah, until the next Bitcoin halving event. So take note of that. That's important. Okay, so that's it. That's it to let you guys know the situation, and everything isn't too bad, to be honest. And of course, there are a lot of traders that are also calling low for Bitcoin. So Ted Pillow, he is also calling. Well, he's not calling 30K Bitcoin, but I think what he's saying, there are charts, technical analysis that are saying that Bitcoin can potentially get down to about $30,000. Okay, but I think personally, I reckon it might be about 55 to about 60. That would be a good time to re-enter. So apart from entering at around November time, right? Also pay some attention onto Bitcoin price action, right? If it gets to about 55 to 60, at least for me, that would be my time, that would be my entry. So I buy some at that time, and I will also continue with my DCA strategy from November onwards, okay? And of course, there are a lot of other traders. The next major support for Bitcoin is about 30,000, right? So I think, guys, just have your dollar cost average in place. I'd never try to get all in onto Bitcoin, especially knowing that the price speculation can range pretty wildly, and more importantly, I'll never try and catch the bottom, right? So that's why DCA is probably the best way to move forward with. Okay, so that's it for price action. Apart from calling out potentially, things may get even more bearish. So just want to let you guys know what's going on, right? So I think somehow the super cycle has been called off. Anyway, let's take a quick look in terms of ETF. ETF yesterday was bearish, $509 million worth of outflow. Majority came from BlackRock. Okay, so on a weekly basis, we closed the week pretty low. In comparison to last week, it was actually more bearish. It was 1.49 billion worth of outflow versus 1.33 billion worth of outflow last week, right? So, and the same for Ethereum. Ethereum, $252 million worth of outflow coming from BlackRock and Fidelity. And then I think Ethereum, call out some interesting news. Some Vitalik Buterin news. So Vitalik Buterin withdraw 44 million of his own Ethereum. So he's like withdrawing his own wealth to support Ethereum growth through mild austerity. Okay, so I think when especially developers, builders, they know that the bear market is coming, so that's what they do. They always start to build, right? And the same applies for Ethereum. I think Ethereum has a lot more to offer soon, right? So that's why they need a lot more in the build side. So good for Ethereum, good for, I think maybe this cycle, Ethereum did Ethereum did perform pretty badly, right? So maybe the next cycle, with more build in place and with more involvement of Vitalik himself on more of the project, maybe Ethereum can be revived. Okay, so we shall see, right? So Ethereum weekly basis, it's 326 million worth of outflow, so pretty bearish. So bearish this week, bearish last week. And what about Solana? I'm going to refresh this. Solana yesterday, it's 11.3 million worth of outflow. Okay, so this is kind of like Solana's biggest outflow of all. And then largely come from Bitwise. So for Solana, weekly, yes, this is the first major kind of well, I can't say major, but Solana's first outflow, bearishness for Solana ETF for many weeks, right? So even for the month so far, it's still positive at $104 million worth of inflow, but in comparison to December, it was 147 million. So I think somehow this marks the entrance to the bear cycle for Bitcoin and crypto. Okay, so bear that in mind, guys. Bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. Yeah. Okay, so let's quick move on to news that moves Bitcoin price section, right? So yesterday there was some data that came out. Refresh this. So yesterday, PPI data, right? PPI data came hotter than expected. So PPI, Producer Price Index, for December showed higher inflation than forecast. So actual was 0.5% month over month versus expected of 0.3%. And core PPI 0.4% versus 0.3%. So PPI measures wholesale prices, often signal future consumer inflation. So of course, hotter data can make Fed less likely to want to cut rates soon, right? I think we have the next anticipation of rate evaluation sometime in March and followed by April. And mind you, the new Fed doesn't start until May, and it does seem the new Fed will be more, maybe more hawkish, right, per se, right? Maybe more hawkish. I'm just thinking out loud. So implication on the headline, so essentially added risk off mood overall. So pressure Bitcoin as risky play, right? So Bitcoin holders, it does seem inflation data can essentially delay more of the rate cut. or possibly no rate cut at all for 2026, right? Even if there rate cut, I'm going to get to that news. Even if there rate cut, there can probably be no quantitative easing, like infinite money printing, right? So it does seem all of a sudden, right, exactly what I said during December, right? Until we can see rate cut, right? Until we can see more infinite money prints, don't expect Bitcoin to bounce anytime soon. And this is how it all exactly plays out, right? So pretty tough time for Bitcoin. But you know what? If you've been following my channel, I've been trying to manage everyone's expectation, right? This is meant to be a bear year for Bitcoin, right? And we are going through a bear trend right now, okay? And Bitcoin price will no doubt head down lower, and this is where we, we'll just need to be tough and continue our DCA, right? And of course, there are other news such as Walsh. So Walsh, this guy. Warsh Fed Chair picks spark market panic, and of course that leads on to metal crash. Okay, so President Trump picked Kevin Warsh as next Fed Chair, and markets went crazy. So Warsh is seen as strict on money policy, not loose like some wanted. This was the dollar stronger by 0.8% to 0.9%, and gold, silver dropped hard. And gold and silver had big runs in 2025. Gold ran about 66%, silver about 135%. So many people were in using borrow money. When prices fell, they had to sell. They had to sell very, very fast to cover losses, and essentially making the whole situation worse, right? And of course, technology stocks like Microsoft, I think it fell by 12%, Nasdaq down about 1.2%. So investors sold everything to get cash, to be in cash right now, including metals that were previously the winners, right? So yeah, I think a few things essentially to call out, right? Why are people afraid of Kevin Warsh, right? Because he obviously served on the Federal Reserve Board in between 2006 and 2011 and played a very, very key role in 2008 crisis, right? So since leaving the Fed, Kevin has been one of the most vocal critics of how monetary policy was handled after that period. So he has also repeatedly argued that QE, quantitative easing, inflated asset prices, increased inequality, and mainly benefited financial markets rather than the real economy. So he's also described QE as a reverse Robin Hood policy. So he also said in post-2020 inflation surge was a policy mistake, not an unavoidable outcome. So that tells markets he is less tolerant of prolonged, ultra easy policy, right? So while Warsh now supports cutting interest rates, his framework, I think it's all priced in by the investors, by the traders in Wall Street, that his framework is different from what market are used to. So he has opposed to rate cuts combined with balance sheets reduction, not open-ended liquidity. And now this is the big issue, guys, because markets is already pricing in the risk that rates may come down, may or may not come down, right? But liquidity, so that's the thing, right? I've mentioned before, rate followed by liquidity, right? So, but liquidity may not expand the way it has in previous cycles. So that combination is not a friendly for highly leveraged traders or stretch equity valuations or liquidity to drive rallies, right? So in simple terms, what Trump wants lower rates. Warsh wants tighter balance sheet discipline, right? So markets fear rate cuts now without quantitative easing. So QE is no longer guaranteed, guys. And 2020, well, at least for 2026, I think even CZ himself, I think he also hinted that does seem the dead cat bounce for Bitcoin or the rally for Bitcoin or the super cycle for Bitcoin is somehow cancelled for the time being. Okay, so time to absorb that news, let that sink in, guys. So I think how big was this crash? Over $7 trillion has been erased from the precious metal in just 36 hours. Silver is down 30%. Gold is down 13.6%, 4,900. Dropped below 4,900, right? Wiping out $5 trillion for gold. Wow, that's massive. Platinum down 27%. Palladium is down 21%. Whew. Everything's down. Everything went down. It's pretty darn harsh. Okay, so other news. Okay, Bitcoin slumps to 2 months low amid of ETF outflow and tech sell off. I've mentioned earlier. So not good generally. Everything went down. And of course, I think Bitcoin continued to go down. It's all due to government shutdown fears. Okay. I think last Sunday spoke about this, and one of the things that I said was it will break Bitcoin. Okay, so I think whatever that broke Bitcoin and metal and the whole shebang, I think it's essentially due to Kevin Warsh, but certainly the government shutdown also played a very, very important role. And it's all playing out right now. Okay, so expert says 80% chance government shut down by January the 31st, because of no funding deal. So shutdown stops some services and will delay crypto rules, and that essentially spooks the whole market. So this is a partial government shutdown. It's now live after the House failed to vote on a funding deal. So lawmakers may fix it when they reconvene on Monday, or they may not, and it will continue to shut down. So because it happened over the weekend, markets had no chance to react, basically. So that reaction come Monday morning, US time, which is our afternoon time. I think all of this will play out when the futures market open, as well as the Asian market open, and followed by Europe market open, and things gonna look ugly, right? Monday, I think things will look very, very ugly. Until then, markets open with just headline risk. So here's what traders will be looking out for, like futures reaction at the open, volatility spikes from policy uncertainty, risk asset pricing a longer shutdown, right? So risk assets, Tesla shares, Microsoft, yada, 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 Nvidia, Bitcoin, everything may drop or may start pricing in longer shutdown. Essentially means, may drop. And I think there will be some money rotations into treasuries and safe havens. So that's why I'm thinking, will gold pump again? Okay. And of course, missing economic data, creating macro blind spots. So historically, short shutdowns rarely crash the market. But they do increase uncertainty. And market hates uncertainty more than any bad news, right? So potentially, I reckon it could slow Bitcoin growth short term and bring Bitcoin even down to even more bearishness. Okay, so that's my take. That's my read on the market. Okay, let's move on to other interesting news for Bitcoin. One of it is this Tennessee bill for 10% state funds in Bitcoin. Okay, so lawmakers want stake to put up to 10% public funds like pensions into Bitcoin. So great. I think more nations, states' adoption on Bitcoin is always bullish fundamentally for Bitcoin, right? So it's no longer retail buying. It's no longer ETF buying. ETF are essentially retail too. Come on, guys, right? And then no longer just Michael Saylor buying, right? And it's now states, nations. Well, a few nations started buying. I mean, not as if Tennessee is going to be a huge state, right? But anyway, we are seeing a lot more evidence of, Bitcoin buying. So not just retail buying. So I think the asset is safe enough that one day it will get into, have much higher market cap, right? So please, guys, do not panic sell right now. Okay, I know it's painful because I did see some comment yesterday. I think a gentleman bought some at around 100,000 plus for Bitcoin, and I'm just worried about people in the community and started to sell Bitcoin, and this will be a bad time to sell Bitcoin. But unless someone came back and say, hey, I need to sell because family reason and financial reason, whatever, right? However, it does seem it's simply just the bad time to sell. However, what we should really be doing right now, right, if knowing that the Bitcoin will be going lower and some of the target would be 55,000 to 60,000 or even $30,000 Bitcoin, right? Now is the time we need to stack up cash so that we can enter hard, right? But enter very, very hard when Bitcoin really dips, right? So bear that in mind, guys. Apart from that, I think this news, 10% of Tennessee's general fund will be getting into Bitcoin. Under the proposal, the treasurer could allocate funds from general funds, the revenue fluctuation reserve, or other state funds approved by lawmakers. Bitcoin exposure would be capped at 10% of each eligible fund at the time of purchase. Okay, so it's a short video today. Right. Past 24 hours, Bitcoin has been pretty volatile from 81K to about 81 low to about 84,000, I believe. But a lot of outflow, guys. I think I do anticipate to see more of this when Monday market open. And of course, Walsh, the new Fed picked by Donald Trump. I don't foresee any greatness to be playing out. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not doing his job, right? I'm just saying that the policy that potentially he would be driving will essentially cause the system to have less liquid, right? So that's the things that we have to face, guys. So bear that in mind. Stay strong. DCA is the best, right? And I've also, spoke about few key entries earlier in this video. And of course, none of these are financial advice, so do your own research. And and I do anticipate good rebound ahead, but not anytime soon, but later, perhaps later next year. Okay, so in the meantime, please remember to drop a like, hit subscribe, drop a like, guys. Yeah, drop a like, guys. Let me raise this up. Drop a like, guys. I like seeing that. Drop a like, guys. Drop a like. It doesn't appear anymore. So remember to hit subscribe and let me know who you are in the comment section, where you guys are watching from. It's always nice to hear from viewers. Let me know which numbers of subscribers you are. It's always nice to, well, you guys never leave your name, right? It's quite nice to know known you guys as numbers. Like, who's my actually I'm 500 now. I'm 500 followers now. So I'm really ultra excited about my YouTube journey so far. So thanks, guys. Thank you. Really appreciate all of you subscribers. So yeah, I'm just thrilled and I'm happy where I am right now. YouTube has been kind of like a passion project, and I hope to continue. So I'm a small content creator, as you can see. So any subscribe will definitely help my channel to grow, guys. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.